107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
My name is Beatrice.
This evening, the economic experts have also been talking about Ghana still not out of the woods despite a successful debt restructuring. This evening, we'll take a look at how things are playing out.
Also, nearly 8 million Ghanaians from age 6 years and above cannot read or write with understanding in any language. That's according to the latest Ghana Living Standard Survey. We delve deeper into this subject. Also, on your Election Command Center campaign trail, former chair of the New Patriotic Party, Freddie Blade, denies reports that the party may be forcing Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Poko-Prempeh on the flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We have a conversation on this matter this evening here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, the Attorney General, Godfred Yaboadame, has for the first time spoken about how things are playing out after the conversation between him and Richard Jakwa was admitted into evidence by the trial judge in the ongoing ambulance trial. We'll give you details of exactly what the Attorney General has been talking about. Plus, the former minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, questioning the constitutionality of some of the provisions of the Affirmative Action Bill. We'll have details of that here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 plus the latest in business and sports over the next 1 hour, 30 minutes. As always, we're very, very interactive. You can share your thoughts with us. We're live on Facebook right now at 3FM 927. Also on X at 3FM 927. Share your thoughts with us. Share it with the rest of the world. Let's start off today with some economic analysts talking about Ghana and the agreement with the Eurobond holders in principle and what happened with the bilateral creditors as well. Indeed, and they say that Ghana is not out of the woods yet, despite a successful completion of its debt restructuring program. Now, Ghana's Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam, over the weekend announced the completion of the country's debt restructuring program with its official creditors. Now, Dr. Amin says that some $5.1 billion worth of debt has been restructured with official creditors. Now, Ghana has also concluded the restructuring of $13.1 billion with Eurobond holders. According to the minister, this will result in savings of about $8 billion for the country. Listen to him.
Bringing the debt restructuring to an end. Last 2 weeks, we concluded negotiation with the official creditors, and we've agreed to restructure $5.1 billion. And I'm telling you, your government is good in negotiation. Of the $5.1 billion, we are going to make a savings of about $2 billion. As I speak to you, tomorrow morning, there will be an announcement that we have also concluded our negotiation with the Eurobond holders, $13.1 billion. And ladies and gentlemen, when we announce it, please read the details. We have negotiated a good deal for Ghana that will save us $8 billion. All this money we will no longer pay. We will have to use it well. And so the president has decided that we will create a special fund like we did with HIPIC, so we can direct these savings to strategic infrastructure projects, so we can take our economy to another level. And wait until the announcement. The confidence in our economy is going to come back stronger, because the world is no longer interested in investing in Ghana because of those debt restructuring. After tomorrow, it will be a different story. Watch the cedi to the dollar after tomorrow. Watch the cedi to the dollar after tomorrow.
You heard the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam. He also talked about the country concluding its debt restructuring of $13.1 billion with European Eurobond holders. Listen to exactly what he said on that as well. Well, the finance minister will bring you that, but the finance minister also said the government will disburse 1.5 billion to assist customers affected by the banking sector cleanup operation.
We do not take responsibility as a government, because when people decide to invest in one bank or one instrument or another, government is not consulted. It's an individual decision. And when you are investing, you know that you can make your returns, you can also lose. But this government is so caring. Mistakes were made. People were not well informed. Maybe they didn't know who to consult to be informed or advised. But we also know that the people who are affected are suffering. We heard that some people have died. Some people had to commit suicide. This government is so caring that in the first place, we granted some bailout to all the affected. And I want to tell you again that the president has directed that we do another bailout. So between now and October, we will release 1.5 billion Ghana cedis to the affected people. This will not pay the entire amount, because the entire amount is 4 billion, but we are showing the roadmap. We will do 1.5 billion. Inshallah, Dr. Baumia will come as the president, and we will do all the rest.
You heard the Finance Minister, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam. Let's bring you some more on this. Professor Patrick Isuming is an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Good evening to you, Prof. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, and good evening to listeners.
Prof, should we be rejoicing at this feat? I mean, we've been able to save some $8 billion.
Yeah, I think it's generally positive news to know that even the whole idea that we'll be able to bring closure to this is something very positive. There's been a lot of government projects that have been in limbo because the discussions on the external debt exchange, especially the bilateral one, has been on hold. So it gives us the chance to complete those. There are a lot of uncompleted social road infrastructure projects around the country. And I think if you look at the fact that our total debt stock, the external debt stock is about 30.6 billion USD. And if, as the finance minister says, we make savings to the tune of 8 billion, I think that's quite substantial and it's definitely worth celebrating.
Prof, you're talking about a lot of government projects being in limbo. Earlier, we spoke with Professor John Gache, who thinks that this is the time for us to have an escrow account, ensure that we are saving the monies there. So when it's time for us to pay our debts from 2026, we'll be able to have the needed funds to support us.
Well, I think, let's get it clear. It's not like we had the money available to pay and, we decided not to pay. We didn't have the money. So when we say we are making the savings, it's not like we are struggling to actually mobilize the money. So in some sense, when someone says, let's put it in an escrow account, well, I would think, of course, if we had the money ready to pay, then sure. But then again, we are in debt. And we need, the economy also needs some much needed investment, especially in the area of public infrastructure. Where I will caution is that, we shouldn't see this as a spending spree. And on that score, I was quite troubled to hear the finance minister talk about 1.5 billion on a new bailout or whatever he was saying. But I think that we have to use this period, especially the 3-year grace period, carefully. And we have to do proper investment in the Ghanaian economy. I think we can't just say, we have the money, so we are just going to put it down and wait for it to earn interest from who, and then we use it to pay. But I think we need to use the savings wisely. Make sure that, in particular, the economy is generating enough foreign exchange earnings come the time that you have to service the debt. And then you'll be able to service it properly.
I'm glad you talk about the investment, wise investment in this, because earlier you made the point of public projects, in public infrastructure. These are projects that would normally not bring you returns, as it were. So if you're going to spend a chunk of it on it, then which money are you going to be left with to do any sort of investment that will give you the returns you talk about now?
Well, when we spend on public infrastructure, of course, it's not an investment that you say at every month you will, you get this amount in return. So when we talk about that, that return comes primarily in terms of its ability to spur economic growth. And of course, when the economy is growing, even at current tax rates, you should be able to collect more revenue. So that's the sense in which we mean that we should make that kind of public investment. So, of course, when you build a road, unless you tow it, even if you tow it, the amount you get is not going to be exactly as amount that you have committed to it. But the whole idea is that those things promote economic growth. They should help the economy grow stronger and faster in the long term. And as the economy is growing, the fruits of that growth should help us to service the debt relatively quickly. But I think the bigger problem with that is the efficiency of public investment. The amount that we commit to various road projects and whether we get value for the amount you commit. I think that's where the main problem sits.
Prof, let me ask you this question, and then I would ask you to hold on because we have another person on the line with us. In the meantime, though, what do you see as the immediate benefit for us? We heard the finance minister rejoicing that in the shortest possible time, in fact, he mentioned just a day after an announcement, we should see the cedi doing better against international trading currencies.
I think there's some potential element of truth in that. In fact, if you check, after Friday, when news broke that perhaps we are reaching a deal with our the bondholders, you saw that there was movement on the yield on Ghana's secondary bonds. So I think in that sense, you can expect that will be some of the more immediate gains. But those things are not going to last if the fundamentals of the economy return. Those things kind of shape investor sentiment, but you can't build an economy on just investor sentiment. You have to draw those on strong fundamentals. That's why you notice that sometimes there's a major news, you are going to the IMF, the currency stabilizes a little bit and eventually returns to its longer term path. So yes, it will give us some short term bounce in terms of the economy, but the currency in particular. But the longer term movement will depend on how much progress we make by way of building a more resilient economy that generates substantial foreign currency to service other needs.
Prof, I want you to hold on, Alfred.
Yes, and let me acknowledge the presence of Joe Jackson, as the acting chief executive officer of the Delex Finance. Mr. Jackson, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Hot Edition.
Good evening, and it's a pleasure to join you as always.
It's great. Now, first of all, just start off from where Professor Sumi ended, that the finance minister's optimism that from tomorrow, in fact, he was very emphatic in his words, that from tomorrow, we should look at what's going to be happening to the cedi, the strength of the cedi against the dollar. Do you also estimate or expect that immediate reaction of the strength of the cedi against the dollar with this announcement? He says because there's going to be an announcement by close of day today or early tomorrow, and that is going to inject some confidence in the cedi against the dollar.
First of all, generally it is good news. It is good news for the private sector. It is good news for the government. But it's not all good news, and I'll explain why it is not all good news. From a document that we pulled up, it seems like we're going to pay $477 million in 2024. Remember that since 18th of December 2022, we haven't paid any money to these commercial debtors. So all of 2023 never paid, and for the first half of 2024, we haven't paid. Now, the 477 million we have to pay, that just means that there's going to be an extra demand of $477 million in the second half of this year to pay these creditors. Whilst 477 million is not an inordinate amount, it is still more pressure on the city. This 477 million is made up of 166 million in principal and 311 million in interest. So, on one hand, the agreement is good news. On the other hand, we have to start thinking, now that the government is paying back some amount of money, how is that going to affect the city? So, whilst I do agree that there is a reason to be optimistic, I'm not sure whether that optimism will stand up to scrutiny as much as it should, given that there's a $477 million payment for the rest of this year.
I see, and let's understand this. This $477 million you say is for which quarter and payment of this principal and interest?
It's for the last 2 quarters of this year.
The last 2 quarters of this year, and this is payment to the Eurobond holders.
Yes, made up of 166 million in principal and 311 million in interest payments.
I see, and if you look at even this agreement that the finance minister talked about, this is agreement in principle. So this is not a final agreement for that matter, and we are seeing already.
This is an estimate. We pulled up this agreement from what do you call it? It's from prnewswire.com, and it talks about the government of the Republic of Ghana and the representatives of bondholders reach an agreement in principle on the terms of Eurobond restructuring. And the news was provided by the Republic of Ghana on the 24th of June at 4 o'clock European time.
I see. Now, and that document where you refer to, in fact, I've seen portions of that publication that you talk about as well, that the bondholders have been given 2 options, the disco and the par. And for under the disco, they're actually being offered 37% haircut with an interest of 5% payment between 2024 and 2028, correct?
Yes.
And under the par, there's a capped amount of $1.6 billion. Mm-hmm. And with these 2, which one do you think is going to attract the Eurobond holders to sign on to?
I'll be honest with you, it is difficult for me sitting here to determine. What I'm talking about is, if you come further down in that same document, it talks about estimated cash flows expressed in $1 million. And if you look at that 2024, you see the amount that they expect to push out.
That's right.
And it is that amount for 2024 for which will be paid over Q1 and Q2. That's the one that causes us some disquiet, in the sense that is also additional pressure on the city.
So even all things being equal, this $8 billion that the finance minister talks about that is coming in terms of savings because we are not paying or servicing our debt, we should be subtracting some $477 million from that. And if you're going to do a simple calculation, it means that all things being equal, from 2025, we should all start thinking about the headache that the continuous payment of these, that the servicing of these debts to the external creditors, specifically the Eurobond holders, is going to pose or impact on our city as well.
Yes, because remember, but actually, the headache really starts in 2026. when in 2024, it is 477 million. In all of 2025, it is 692 million. It is in 2026 that this jumps up to 1,377 million. So it is really 2026 that the real headache starts.
So what should be the thinking? I mean, beyond this celebration right now, which you say is it gives some temporary reprieve to the cedi against the dollar. What should be the thinking in the medium to long term? Because certainly this is not one that we can rejoice over for too long.
In the medium to long term, remember that this whole process is made up of two things. It is that, number one, we must be making enough revenue to pay our debts. Otherwise, we end up in the same place where we did. Number two, the cedi stabilization that is required is not in the trade account. What do I mean? We are exporting more than we are importing. So let nobody blame imports for the situation we are in with regard to it. It is debt servicing. It is remittances. It is transfers. It is foreign direct investments that are taking away from us. So we should be looking in the right place. Let's stop haranguing the importers and start looking at the remittances that go out, the amounts that go out as debt service, of which we've done a significant job today, the amounts that go as transfers, the amounts that are coming in as foreign direct investment. I always say that the problem we face as a nation is that when we export a barrel of oil, only $17 comes back. When you export a barrel of oil, if you export a barrel, $100 worth of oil, crude oil as a country, only $17 comes back to us. Cross the border to Nigeria, when they export $100 worth of crude oil, $51 come back. So unless we fix all these issues, this relief is temporary and we'll be back where we started.
And that's a reality check, is it not? Professor Suming, I have you on still. Hearing this, that yes, there's some temporary reprieve that this agreement in principle is giving to us as a country, but then again, we have issues to worry about. For instance, if you look at this document that Mr. Jackson refers to, we have to think about paying some monies to the Eurobond holders, 477 million for the third and fourth quarter of this year, 692 million for the whole of 2025, over $1.3 billion going into 2026. That certainly brings up another issue of concern, does it not?
Well, yeah, of course. I think compared with what would have happened without the debt exchange, I mean, this is it's slightly better. But I think the point has to be made that, you know, the energy and excitement and the confidence with which the finance minister spoke, you would think that all our debts have been wiped clean and that, you know, our problems are solved. I mean, we still have problems to be solved. And I think we should use this relief, temporary relief, wisely. Use the period wisely and start investing wisely and not start thinking that, you know, now we are out of the woods. You know, seeing that investors are now going to flock back into the economy. You know, I think, like Joe Jackson said, you know, yes, of course, when investors are coming, we are happy, but we shouldn't forget that at the first sight of trouble, when you are living, it's part of why the currency depreciates. So, you know, we have to go back to the drawing board and start thinking about how we restructure the economy, in particular our long-term financing needs, and not think that, you know, we are going to do this and rush back to international markets, and then the problem will restart.
Indeed. And Professor, appreciate your time here on Hot Edition. And Mr. Jackson, quickly before I let you go, I'm also saying, based on the details of at least the document that you referred to, some expected savings of that $8 billion that the finance minister talks about, the cash flow of some $4.4 billion from this temporary or agreement in principle with the Eurobond holders. Now, if you talk about the issues of efficiency in public expenditure or public spending, which areas should be this savings of 8 billion going to?
Well, first of all, I can tell you the 8 billion should not go into consumption. That's the one sure thing. The 8 billion should go into infrastructure that has been carefully selected, that delivers economic benefit, not political benefit. Infrastructure that will generate enough tax revenue to help us repay the debts that we have that are coming up ahead of us. So, one sure thing, don't put this money into teacher training allowances. Don't put this money into free SHS. Don't put this money into all the other schemes that are direct consumption. Put this money into the roads that matter. The infrastructure projects matter. Don't put this money into building stadia for sports, unfortunately. Put this money into infrastructure that can deliver revenue that will help us pay our debts.
We'll see how the coming days will, and bear in mind that this is an election year. So obviously, and I asked that question because governments would want to invest in populist-looking projects targeting the gains they will make in an election that is ahead of us, a little over 5 months away. So those areas that you talk about that they shouldn't invest are areas that they would want to rather be considering, because it would be visible enough and quick enough for the people to consider or refer to going into the election. Because if you listen to the finance minister, he says, you know what, because of all of this, Dr. Bawumia is going to win, and the cycle will continue of payment of, for instance, the funds of persons who had their monies locked up during the financial sector cleanup.
Unfortunately, those are some of the worst things that we could do with the money. Because if you put it into those sorts of things, you know that all that will happen is will be even more inflation and even more devaluation of the cedi. We should resist the temptation to use it for consumption items. That will just throw cedi into the economy, CDs into the economy without the requisite productivity. And all that will happen is more money chasing the few dollars that are available, more CDs chasing the few dollars that are available, that will come back and haunt us in higher inflation and a lower value for the cedi. On one hand, I've heard Honorable Minister of Finance, Dr. Amin, talk about discipline, fiscal discipline in an election year, especially in an election year, given the kind of crisis that we are in. I just pray and hope that that is the Dr. Amin we're going to see for the rest of the year, not an electioneering Dr. Amin. Because if he keeps to his original words when he was put on the seat, that he's going to make sure even though it is an election year, he's going to apply fiscal discipline to make sure we don't make a bad situation worse. Then we are on track to coming out of this crisis. If we are going to get an electioneering Dr. Amin, who is now tuned into populist products or populist spending, back to the good bad old days of every election year we overspend on the worst kind of things, then we are going to be in trouble for 2025.
So Jackson, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Joe Jackson is Acting Chief Executive Officer of Dalex Finance.
And indeed, let's continue with this because we are joined on the line now by Dr. Duana Nientri, who is the leader of the Institutional Bondholders Forum, as well as representing individuals whose funds have been locked up. Good evening to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking. Let me first ask you whether you've got information on the first bit of the institution which you're representing, and whether or not you are affected in this or you benefit from this restructuring we talk about. And I'm talking about the Institutional Bondholders Forum.
You mean the restructuring of the bond?
Yes.
The first one, which was the domestic debt one, that was where the pensioner bondholders were involved. That's the domestic debt one. That has been concluded. The one that has been restructured now, which is almost completed, is the Euro bond. That is a foreign bond.
Yes,
even though some Ghanaians are holding the Euro bond, including pensioners who are also holding some of the Euro bonds. But it is not the one that we had already concluded issues on. This is the Euro bond.
Yeah, so I was asking, of course, the domestic debt exchange program, we're aware that was dealt with, but in terms of this Eurobond restructuring, do you have any of your members affected?
Yes, that's what I've said, that there are some Ghanaians who are holding the bonds, and they include pensioners. So some of our members also have bonds, holding some of the Eurobonds.
So let's talk about the individuals whose funds have been locked up. We heard the minister announce 1.5 billion Ghana cedis, which should be disbursed between October, I believe between now and October this year. That should be some good news for you.
It is good news for investors, but not for all investors or for all people whose funds has been locked up. The government made a provision of 4 billion in the budget, this year's budget, and said it was going to be used part to recapitalize the NIB, and then part to be used to settle this legacy issues. The legacy issues are the outstandings that have not been cleared. That is, people who have investment in institutions whose licenses has been revoked and institutions closed down. But you recall that the government paid them only 50,000 from the beginning. The rest of the people or their monies are still on tape for over 4 years now. That's what they call the legacy issue. Then the government said they were also going to use part to resolve fresh specialized equity-taking issues. That is where we fall, because the institutions that we have our funds now has become stretched, and so they needed to be supported. The Bank of Ghana said they have become insolvent, but their licenses were revoked. But what the Bank of Ghana told us was that there has been no provisions made for the revocation of these licenses of these four institutions that we are doing. And that's why they are waiting for the Minister of Finance to make financial provisions so that they can impose the license. That means the four institutions that have become insolvent now, nobody has made provision towards the payment of investors' funds with these institutions. That is what Bank of Ghana has seen. So if provisions has been made previously, it wasn't for these four institutions that we are dealing with now, but for the whole ones, including the Black Shield, that is of the Indian company, and other institutions and the Restructuring Commission, which had their licenses revoked, and investors still are waiting for their money. You recall that some of them, the government spent their money to GCD capital and issue them with some paper to say that their money has been put in a mutual fund. Nobody knows what mutual fund has the things has been issued to these people. So they are also part of the people whose money are still unpaid. So these are the legal issues. So we believe that the 1 point, because if the government wanted to resolve all these issues, I believe that the 1.7, which was provided for, was not sufficient, because the 4 billion, government said it was going to use 2.3 to recapitalize NIB, and that gives you only 1.7. And I don't have the figures, but I know that there is no way all the outstanding deposit that government has been paid, would the 1.7 will be sufficient to cover all and leave the balance for the new ones that has come into office? I don't believe that. And so we don't count ourselves as being placed under this, because no financial provision has been made for our support.
You don't find yourself being placed under this, and you're talking about
because the Bank of Ghana says no financial provisions has been made. You see, government budgetary issues or public finance, government must first put expenses that it wants to share in the budget and get parliamentary approval. So once Parliament has approved the budget, that is the point where we say provision has been made for this expenditure. Then government waits. When you get the money from taxes and other government revenue, and now it says, I'm cutting the money, so I'm ordering the release of that budgetary figure that I have put in the budget. So government doesn't release funds when budgets have not been made for those funds. And so if the Bank of Ghana tells you that no provision has been made, no budgetary provision has been made for your payment, then there's no way you can receive payment from government.
Dr. Aminaudan, the finance minister seems to have given you some hope. He said that whatever has been given now, whatever has been put aside, which is the 1.5 billion Ghana cedis we're talking about, expected to be disbursed between now and October, is just a first step. And that should the vice president, who is now the current flag bearer of the governing party, win, he would continue with the others to ensure that every other group is satisfied.
I don't want to be hearing that. It's not the government, somebody winning. We are not doing politics here. We say government must provide financial support for us to have to pay. We are not waiting for anybody to help.
So I'm just reiterating what the finance minister said, that if you...
I will not agree. We shouldn't be... Nobody should tell us that. We want our money now. And it's not somebody should come or somebody should go before we get your money. That's not an acceptable statement to be made.
In the meantime, though, before you go, how would you expect the government to meet the other side of the coin, as it were, or your needs, looking at the current situation we have on our hands?
We have said that government, the budget that government has made, that 4.4 billion, is insufficient. It can't cover it. If the government thinks it can cover it, it should come out and tell it that I have restructured what I'm going to pay. NIB, I was going to pay NIB 2.3. We don't understand. I don't understand why you should pay NIB 2.3 billion when there are other issues you have to deal with and you don't have the money. NIB capitalization, you must bring it to the level that the Bank of Ghana requires. That is fine. But why do you give more than the necessary? More than that, when other sectors are suffering. So either the government reduces what is intended to give to NIB and free resources so that it can have funds to settle all other projects whose funds are lost. Or the government, we have said, must engage with the World Bank, the IMF, and other development partners and discuss with them for them to allow government to use part of the financial stability fund to pay depositors, and then also allow part of the IMF bailout funds to pay depositors. That is all that we are telling government.
We'll have to end it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Edouard Nadienche. He is with the Institutional Bondholders Forum, also leader of persons whose funds have been locked up as a result of the banking sector cleanup. Well,
away from the issues of the IMF and the Eurobond holders, external Eurobond holders, and matters arising, a survey from the Ghana Statistical Service in partnership with the Ministry of Education indicates that 7.9 million persons who are 6 years and older cannot read or write with understanding in any language. Now, according to the 2021 Population and Housing Census, this is largely informing the Ghana Living Standard Survey, focusing on learning poverty. The key indicators of the survey include literacy and numeracy rates, number of children in hazardous work, household income and expenditure, the number of working children amongst others. I'll also take you through excerpts of this report. If you go on our Facebook page at 3FM927, you'll get to see it. And it clearly indicates, gives details of exactly why there should be a concern and a worry for us as a people, and what should be the thinking going forward. Let's engage shortly now on the telephone, the Director of Surveys and Census Organization at the Ghana School Service, Abena Samuabia Osei Akoto. Madam, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Sir. And thank you for giving us the opportunity.
Perfect. Now, just for the benefit of our listeners, just give me the key pointers in this survey, specifically the area of the 7.9 million persons who are 6 years and older who cannot read or write with understanding in any language. What's the message in there?
Okay, so when we undertook the 2021 population and housing census, we realized that, there was literacy question, but in census, we will find out from you whether you can read and understand a particular language. And that is more of self-reporting. So from the census data, we realized that persons 6 years and older, about 7.9 million of such persons could not read or understand any language. So with this, then with the GNSS coming on board, GNSS is a survey, but it gives you the opportunity to delve into literacy issues in terms of assessing the person, let the person read, and then the interviewer will then know whether the person is able to read or not. So we decided to take advantage of the survey to also find out from the populace the percentage that, or confirm or otherwise, because it's possible that in the census it's just self-reporting. In surveys that we can assess, it may be high or it may be low. So we need to also delve into that to assess that.
A very important point that you're does this 7.9 million persons cover the entire 16 regions?
Yes, the entire 16 regions.
I see. But then also, is that to say that these persons are already in school and cannot read or write with understanding in any language?
Some are in school, some are not in school.
Then what does that say about, for instance, did you drill down the data so I get the breakdown of, for instance, those who are in school but cannot read or write with understanding in any language? How many of them form part of the 7.9 million?
Where I am now, sorry, I'm driving, but I can't give you. But the details are there for us to know the numbers that were or are in school and the numbers that are not in school.
I see.
But it gives us the opportunity to also delve into those who are not in school and then see how we can bring about policies to ensure that these people, if they are not going to school, we organize literacy classes for them to at least get the understanding or be able to write in a particular language.
And in fact, those who are in school but cannot read or write with understanding in any language are over 3 million out of the 7.9 million. I mean, what does that tell you? Or what did you also find out what could be contributing to this, that over 3 million children 6 years or older cannot read or write even though they are in school? I mean, is it about the pedagogy? Or
so that gives room for further analysis, further investigation. And so we thought the Ghana Living Standard Survey would provide a platform where we can delve into some of these and get to know what the causes are, where we are falling short, what measures do we put in place in order to build them up and take them out of that situation.
See, and are there any other specific recommendations that could help address this matter?
For now, I wouldn't say so because we want to delve more into it with the survey. And from the survey that we are doing, it cuts across a lot of thematic areas. So in our analysis, I'm sure we will get to know what causes it, ways of averting it, and all of that. So we think the survey is right for us to delve into it and get to know why these things are occurring. How do we stop or how do we reduce the numbers of these people? And then we will move on for other things regarding them. See how we improve their lives.
Right on. Appreciate your time, madam. Thank you so much for joining us.
We are grateful. Thank you very much.
To Sabina Asamoah Osei Akoto, was the Director of Surveys and Census Organization at the Ghana Fiscal Service, joining us there here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. When we're back, Beatrice will take us into what exactly Freddie Blay had to say about issues relating to the running mate. Stay with us.
Everyone is running to Bills. Enjoy the peace of mind that comes with acquiring any of our loan facilities. For whoever you are and whatever you're doing, Bills has a product for you. No susu, no deposit. All you need is your Ghana card. Call 0302-200-390 or 0596-928-33 today and live a bill-free life. Bills Microcredit is licensed by the Bank of Ghana. Bills, financing your needs. Terms and conditions apply.
Radio Development Show Host of the Year, 2016-2017.
And the winner is John Hughes. Check.
Hi, my name is Johnny Hughes, your community rights advocate, and I'm still on the quest to bring smiles into your communities with Community Connect on 3FM 92.7. Join me this and every Friday morning at 9 a.m. right here on 3FM, and together we will solve the problems bothering your communities.
I know your program is a program that always get a result. Myself, I'm a witness to that.
What can we do to help your community today in terms of education, health, sanitation, security, and all the issues in between from your community's perspective? Tune in to Community Connect every Friday morning at 9 a.m. as we get interactive live on radio and on Twitter at 3FM 927 and on Facebook at 3FM 92.7. Community Connect, helping solve your community problems.
3FM 92.7.
And you're still here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Shortly, Michael Ogodu will be taking us through the business stories. But ahead of that, for 15 years, Quick Credit has been your trusted partner in micro-lending, empowering lives and making dreams a reality. Today, we're excited to announce a new age. Quick Credit is now Bill's microcredit. Still committed to serving Ghanaians and changing lives, Bills is here to show you that everything is possible. Join us as we embrace a brighter future. Bills, financing your needs.
Well, hello there. Good evening and welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition with me, Michael Obodu. Coming up, locked up investment holders unhappy with government's 1.5 billion cedi disbursement, describing the amount as grossly inadequate. We'll hear from convener of the group, Dr. Edu Ananientwi. Please stay with us. Well, thank you for staying with us, and straight into our top story. The Locked Up Investment Holders Forum has expressed disappointment, stating that the 1.5 billion cedis the government plans to disburse to customers of defunct banks is grossly inadequate. During a recent town hall meeting in the UK, Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam announced that his ministry has been directed to disburse a total of 1.5 billion cedis to affected customers by October 2024. We'll hear from convener of the Locked Up Investment Holders Forum, Dr. Edu Anani. But first, let's hear from the Finance Minister.
Will not be held responsible for the investment decisions of individuals. But this government will not be held responsible for the investment decisions of individuals. But this government is so caring. Mistakes were made. People were not well informed. Maybe they didn't know who to consult to be informed or advised. But we also know that the people who are affected are suffering. We heard that some people have died. Some people had to commit suicide. This government is so caring that in the first place, we granted some bailout to all the affected. And I want to tell you again that the president has directed that we do another bailout. So between now and October, we will release 1.5 billion Ghana cedis to the affected people. This will not pay the entire amount, because the entire amount is 4 billion.
So that was Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam speaking there. Let's now hear from convener of the Locked Up Investment Holders Forum, Dr. Edu Anani, who has expressed disappointment with the amount and also is calling on government to provide a list of customers it intends to benefit from the fund. We'll bring you that insert shortly. Please stay with us as we pull that through for you. We'll be hearing the voice of Dr. Edu Anani.
Those who have their monies with the institutions that has been closed down, I believe that 1.5 cannot even cover all. I don't have the figures, but the government should give us the figures. But from my own estimation, the Black Shield clients, the amount that Black Shield clients should pay to its depositors, plus the other institutions and which had their licenses revoked by the SEC, will be in excess of 1.5 billion. But the Ministry of Finance and the Security Exchange Commission has the information. They can put it out there to convince us that what is going to go to these legacy issues is Z amount. And then there's a balance of this that can come to the current institutions that are distressed, clients of current institutions that are distressed.
So that was convener of the Locked Up Investment Holders Forum, Dr. Edu Anani. Now, Professor of Finance at Gimpa Business School, Ebenezer Bugrianafo, is making a case for government to concentrate on productive means of mobilizing more revenue domestically. He believes the debt restructuring agreement reached will impact negatively on interest rates on future loans. Ghana reached an agreement in principle with Eurobond investors to restructure about $13 billion of debt, with bondholders accepting a nominal haircut of 37%.
It is going to improve our fiscal space. That is debt relief, and that will mean that the amount we are going to pay to our external creditors have reduced, and that is going to reduce our deficit and lower our debt. And it has also the potential of enhancing our credit worthiness because it will reduce our probability of defaulting on government loans, and this will also improve the exchange rate stability. The negative implication is that
3FM
it will reduce
92.7
investors' confidence because future borrowing cost is going to increase. So in the future, if government of Ghana is going to the bond market this time around, the interest rate is going to be high because of previous experience.
So that was Professor of Finance at the Gimpa Business School, Ebenezer Bugrianafo, ending the business segment on Hot Edition with me, Michael Lubudu. For more business stories, please check out our website, s3news.com/business. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports, and Bill is on standby.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Bilishen. We're going to start off from a breaking story that is from the African Athletics Championships. Ghana's women's relay team has just claimed silver in the ongoing African Athletics Championship. That is the 4x100 meter event. Nigeria actually took the gold medal, and so all eyes will be on the male team, who would also be competing in the final in the next hours to try and get gold for Ghana. Already, Rose Emonima Ayaboa has clinched gold in the high jump for the women for Ghana so far. Moving on to football, in the local football, in Restructuring managed to clinch the MTN FA Cup title for 2024 after defeating Bofokwatano on penalties. This is their first ever trophy after reaching the Ghanaian top flight 2 years ago. Now, they are set to play in the CAF Confederation Cup next season, and Kelvin Owusu-Ansah, one of my colleagues, put up this report on how they are looking to compete in the big leagues.
This remarkable achievement comes in just 2 seasons after Restructuring FC gained promotion to Ghana's top flight. The Bono Club has shown impressive progress, not only securing their first major trophy, but also finishing 5th in the Ghana Premier League with a commendable 50 points from 34 matches, improving on the 13th place the previous year. This rapid ascent from Premier League newcomers to FA Cup champions and continental competitors highlights the club's ambition and potential. With a cash prize of 80,000 Ghana cedis, GFA support of 100,000 Ghana cedis, and backed by a well-resourced board of 4 MPs, the Amanaso boys appear seemingly ready to compete at the highest level. General Manager of the club, Eric Alagidede, assures they will adequately be prepared for the challenge in Africa.
Yeah, well, first of all, we're looking to beef up the squad. That's for sure. There are a lot of positions we need to beef up, especially our attack. Among other things, beefing up the squad is key, and that is something we are starting right from tomorrow, because we don't have a lot of time. Time is really not our friend, and so we need to start as early as possible. And starting from tomorrow, I think the technical team and myself will be putting a lot of these plans.
As Restructuring prepares for the CAF Confederation Cup debut, their recent domestic success and faith in Maxwell Knedu's leadership suggests they are poised to make a significant impact on the continental stage, despite their relative inexperience at this level.
That was a report there by my colleague Kelvin Owusu-Ansah. Let's move on to the Euro 2024. Callum Hudson-Odoi has given some words of encouragement to his international teammate Phil Foden, who has been heavily criticized following his performances in England's first 2 games at the Euro 2024. So far, England has earned 4 points in the competition, but have been heavily criticized for their 1-1 draw against Denmark. But Callum Hudson-Odoi believes that with the mentality that Phil Foden has, he'll be able to bounce back from this and put up better performances in subsequent matches.
I know Phil's a top player. We can all see throughout the whole season that he's been a top player, and he's obviously one player of the year as well. So I think everybody can see that, and you know that obviously he's going to get better throughout the tournament. Everybody knows this, and I know it as well. You've seen how much amazing quality he has. He has the talent and ability. So I think the criticism for him now is I think he'll even use it as determination, even more encouragement to even push himself and get better. So I think he'll do well in the tournament, and he'll be fine.
I think he will do well in the tournament. That is according to Callum Hudson-Odoi, who has been linked with a switch to the Black Stars as he has Ghanaian descent. Now, still on England, Harry Kane, who is the captain of the side, has stated that they are looking to get into the knockout stages, and from there, they'll be able to put up the needed performances to go all the way in the competition, following the recent criticism that the squad has received in the last few days.
I know Phil's a top player. We can all see throughout the whole season that he's been a top player, and he's obviously one player of the year as well. So I think everybody can see that, and you know that obviously he's going to get better.
Yeah, major tournaments are tough, like I touched on. There's always going to be ups and downs. It's never just a straight line to the top, or not in our experience. And we know how much it took to get close in the last Euros. We know how, like I said, the ups and downs, the group stage, and the bottom line is what really matters is, where you finish in the tournament. So no one's going to remember, the 1-1 draw against Denmark if we go all the way and win it, and that's just the reality. So it's just understanding that, don't get too carried away if you're winning games 3-0, and don't get too down if you're playing as we've played so far in the tournament. It's just about pushing on and finding a way to make sure we get to the knockout stage.
That was Harry Kane, the captain of England's national team. But still on the Euros later tonight, Albania will be facing Spain and Croatia will be facing Italy. Italy are looking for a win, whilst Croatia need a win desperately to possibly stay in the competition. Now, here are the lineups for the Albania versus Spain game. For Spain, we have David Raya in goal. We have Guillermo, Laporte, Vivian, and Navas in defense. In midfield, we have Merino and Zubimendi with Oyarzabal, Olmo, and Ferran Torres. And in attack, we have Joselu. For Albania, we have Strakosha, Baliu, Jimciti, Ajeti, and Mitaj. In defense, we have Ramadani, Aslani, Asani, Lachi, and Bajrami in midfield. And in attack, we have Manaj, who will be leading the line for Albania's national team. But this is how the standings look like in Group B. Spain are on top with 6 points and have secured qualification to the round of 16. Italy are right behind them with 3 points. Albania are third with 1 point. And Croatia, who desperately need a win against Italy, are fourth also with 1 point. Now, here are the lineups for Croatia versus Italy. Now, in Italy, we have Donnarumma in goal, Damian, Calafiori, Bastoni, and De Lorenzo in defense. In midfield, we have Jorginho, Barella, Di Marco, Pellegrini, and Raspadori. And in attack, we have Retegui, who will be leading the line for Italy. For Croatia, we have Livakovic, Stanisic, Sutalo, Pongragic, and Vardiol in defense. In midfield, we have Modric, Bozovic, and Kovacic. And in attack, we have Sucic, Kramaric, and Pasalic. That brings an end to the sports segment here on the 3FM Hot Edition. My name is Beatrice, and of course, Beatrice is on standby with more.
Thank you very much, Billy Shan, for bringing us the latest in
court to call for a recount of the vote cast as well as the register that was used for the election. So that ruling will also it's also expected to be delivered tomorrow at the Tamale High Court. Now, for residents and supporters of the ruling New Patriotic Party in the Walwali constituency, all they want to see that they want the party to be united, and so they are calling on the National Executive Committee and the Vice President who comes from that constituency to see to it that some level of sanity prevail, because the issue being in court is affecting the progress of the party in the constituency.
So that would be the reaction of the constituents, as it were. But Dr. Karibu himself, Kabiru, has he reacted since this ruling?
Since this ruling, Dr. Kabiru has not reacted. We tried engaging, in fact, people we know within his camp, and they have all told us that the case is in court, and we should get their lawyers to talk to us. They are not ready to make any public statements on it. But whichever way it goes, they believe that in the end, Dr. Kabiru would be declared as the parliamentary candidate-elect for Wali constituency.
At the end of the day, in the long term, it would be those in the residents who may bear the brunt of whatever negative consequences there would be. Aside from NPP supporters who are obviously also constituent, has there been a general reaction from residents who may not necessarily be supporters of the governing NPP?
Yes, so immediately after the primaries on January 27th till now, what the NDC in the constituency and other persons who see themselves as neutrals is that they want a level playing field for the election to take place. The NDC obviously are saying that they believe that they are going to beat the NPP in this election in the home constituency of the vice president, so they don't want it to be seen as because of the disunity of the MPP in the constituency. That is why they are beating them. They want a level playing field where the MPP will be united for them to beat the MPP in the constituency of the vice president.
Thank you very much, Christopher Marco. He's our Northern Region correspondent. Thank you for speaking to us. We stay with the MPP because former chairman of the party, Freddie Blay, has denied reports that the party may be forcing Energy Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh on Dr. Mahmudu Bawumia into this year's general election. Now, the vice president and the flag bearer of the MPP, Alhaji Mahmudu Bawumia, is yet to name his running mate with barely 6 months to the country's general election. The party's constitution requires the flag bearer to name a running mate 12 months to a general election, but Dr. Bawumia asked for time, and that was in November last year. Names like the Education Minister, Dr. Yao Opoku, Yao Osei Duchum, former Deputy Foreign Affairs Minister Na Toshi, and the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, strongly come up. But in recent times, there seems to be a campaign for the Energy Minister with a recent supposed survey from the National Intelligence Bureau pointing to Dr. Opoku-Prempeh as the favorite within the NPP fraternity. In an interview with me, Freddie Blay said that he knew nothing about the survey and that there's also nothing wrong with Dr. Mahmudu Bawumia not naming his running mate now. Why has Dr. Bawumia delayed in naming a running mate?
Why has he delayed?
In naming a running
Why?
mate. I know that per your constitution, you were supposed to name 12 months to the elections. He asked for some time.
He has asked for some time. The council decided that yes, take all the time that you need and make a decision at your own time. And that when you do so, bring it. We'll discuss
about 6 months to an election. You're not concerned?
Look, do you know the last time when it was decided? When President Akrofi decided to come out with his running mate. He did that in August. We're going to elections in December. That's nothing wrong. At his own time and space, we are ready for that.
Is the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, the one Dr. Bawumia?
I wouldn't know. I'm not the one making the decision. Whichever decision it comes out with.
But I'm sure by now you know who is partnering with
I have no idea at the moment. I'm being very honest with you, B. I talk to you frankly. I'm a straight shooter when it comes to that. I don't have an idea.
There's an impression that the party is pushing Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh on Dr. Bawumia.
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't believe so. The party is not pushing any individual onto Dr. Bawumia. I don't believe
It's interesting you say that. You're a senior member of the party. How could you not know?
Well, we don't have junior and senior members. I'm a member of the party. Yes, I was one time.
And even a former chairman.
That's right. So, but that doesn't make me a senior member. Say I am a member, and I believe, yes, once I was its chairman, but after being the chairman, somebody else have taken over the mantle.
Did the MPP commission the National Intelligence Bureau to conduct a survey?
I am not aware. I'm not privy to that. I've not been told of any investigation that has been undertaken.
So there's a survey coming out, supposedly coming from the NIB.
You are telling me?
That says that Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh is the preferred candidate to partner Mahmudu Bawumia.
You are telling me. I don't have an idea of the so-called survey that you are talking about.
We're learning that although Dr. Bawumia has delayed, by end of this month he should name a running mate. You should be aware of this.
You are a media person. Maybe you have more news. You have more
But if we have
ideas.
news, it comes from the party you are a part of.
No, but I said, who told you that? I don't have an idea. Who might have discussed that with you and given you that information? It could be a privileged information, unless you want to tell me, discuss. Who might have told you that?
And you heard that former chairman of the governing MPP, Freddie Blay, in that interview with me earlier. We're joined on the line now by Dr. Bernard Tutubohi. He's a political marketing and communications strategist. Good evening to you, Doc. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Beatrice.
Doc, you heard Freddie Blay there. Would you say that we should probably be relaxed for Dr. Bawumia to name his running mate as and when he can, as Freddie Blay is making us feel?
Yeah, so good evening to listeners. Yes, Beatrice, I feel that on a more serious note, the honors lies with the fact bearer, to determine when and who he picks to be his running mate. Obviously, with regards to timing and the fact that, people believe that he's delaying unnecessarily, I feel that he should be given his time, to come up with a candidate that he feels will work for him and for his benefit, and more especially the benefit of Ghanaians. And so I believe that he has a responsibility of making a choice. And that choice, should be a choice that his estimate, he would pick the right person, who will align with his thought, with his vision, with his ideas, somebody who will bring some level of leverage, into his campaign and into his governance. And so I think that let's give him that kind of, respect to let him, do it as he wish with regards to probably his own time and whatever. At the end of the day, he will be responsible for whatever decision that he takes. All right. And when it works for him, whether it is by strategy or not, if it works for him, then obviously some of us, researchers, Ghanaians, and probably analysts, would have something to probably also discuss and probably to conduct research on, to see that, yes, with regards to the picking of running mates, time may be of essence, but not necessarily of essence. So let's see what happens, within the period.
Will it be overdoing it to give some credence to the rumors that Dr. Opoku Prempeh could be considered as the running mate, especially when you have Freddie Blay dispelling that rumor, especially regarding the fact that the MPP may be imposing him on the vice president?
Yes, I feel that there hasn't been any official, communication from the rank and file of the MPP and the executives. We've not had any communication also coming from the camp of Dr. Bawumia and his campaign team. So whatever is coming out, probably you can see it as a rumor, as he's saying, but not on the background that probably some, research institutions, or let me put it this way, the NIB has come out, with some research findings to suggest that Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh appears to be, the most popular, person within party delegates and constituency executives. That report seems to suggest that if the seat of the vice president, is supposed to be voted for, and the vice president is supposed to be elected by, party executives or delegates, then obviously their choice would be Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh. But I feel that study should have gone a step further, beyond measuring
delegates, intention or perception about who the right candidate is supposed to be. But they should have actually looked at it from, the perspective of the national voter, in the sense that obviously the acceptability of the vice presidential candidate is something that will be endorsed by voters. The reason is that recent voting patterns of national voters suggest to me that Ghanaians have become a bit more particular about who a running mate is, and have begun to prove the personality, the characteristics, the contributions or the competencies of the vice presidential candidate to, the presidential ticket.
Doc, let me just interrupt you a little bit. Are you saying that people can actually choose to vote against a presidential candidate because they don't like, or the flag bearer because they don't like their running mate?
Yes, and the reverse is equally true, because if they appear to also like him, then obviously they vote in favor, of the presidential, ticket. So it is two sides of the coin. All right. So that is why it is very instructive that Dr. Bawumia takes his time to pick a candidate who has the attributes, to bring votes, to his ticket. And secondly, a candidate who can help him in government. And so it is not a simple thing as probably people think it should be. I have always made this point that, the choice of a vice presidential candidate goes beyond, constitutional requirements and party requirements. It has now become a scientific thing. So you need to understand all the connections and the connectivities and the narratives underpinning the choice. Then, of course, you can make, some level of rational, choice, not just issues also. That's why I believe that, people who are speculating, probably don't really understand the phenomenon, taking place now. People who are lobbying they shouldn't do that, in that they are rather causing some kind of damage, to their own presidential ticket. I think that Dr. Bawumia should be given that time, that kind of flexibility, to be able to do what he deems fit right for him, and again for the party, and especially for Ghana, if Ghana decides to elect him as the president.
Listening or looking at what's happening, it's obvious that there could be some background bidding to get people on the ticket. I'm saying that listening to what is happening and also observing what is happening around us, it's obvious that there would be some bidding going on.
Obviously, bidding will go on. It is allowed in politics, bidding, lobbying, and all that. All kind of, games will be played. But at the end of the day, whose ticket, brings that kind of winning ticket that will break the age as the MPP, have decided, to target. At the end of the day, it is a vision that matters. All right? It is a vision that matters. So the bidding will go on. But as I've indicated earlier, those who are bidding, are you seeking your personal interest, your group interest, or you are seeking the interest of Ghana and the interest of your party and its vision? All right. So bidding, yes, but to what extent is it going to benefit your own candidate and your own party? You may bid all right, and your bidding may work. But what if at the end of the day it takes you to opposition?
Doc, finally,
there will be no use for that kind of bidding.
Finally, before you go, I do not think that you probably may be making conclusions based on how you feel. How does it look like with all that we're seeing in terms of who Dr. Bawumia is likely to pick?
You see, for me, my advice to Dr. Bawumia is that he needs to understand, where he finds himself and the demands placed on his shoulders. All right. Now, he cannot just pick a candidate because there's pressure from the party. He cannot just pick a candidate because people are lobbying and people are bidding for a particular candidate. I want to make this point and make it clear that, Ghana has gotten to a place where, voter behavior seems to be, divorcing the party from candidates. All right. So if you are not careful and then you place any candidate who probably seems to be popular within the party, the ranks and file of the party, and voters are saying that this candidate is going to be rejected, then obviously they will reject the candidate. Now, if you show that, yes, this candidate has what it takes, to connect national voters, unite national voters, get something out of national voters, that is what the national voter is looking for. And what party delegates are saying does not really matter. Okay, so I think that these senses should be used and should be used very, very well to understand the dynamics, within the choice. In fact, that decision is too complex, for anybody, to play games with it, especially at this particular dispensation that we find ourselves, within the democratic journey.
Thank you very much. Political marketing and communication strategist, Dr. Bernard Tutuwahi, for speaking to us. And that will be it for Campaign Show here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. And that's it for Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. My name is Beatrice. Thank you very much for joining us today. I did this with Alfred Ocansey. Log on to streetnews.com for more news. Have a good evening and do enjoy the rest of our programs.